All right, everybody. Turn the music down. Happy day. This is Nikki Burnett, functional nutritionist. This is Taste Life Radio. We're streaming live on KUHS Denver. And here we want to talk, the goal for this show is to talk a lot about food and science and fun and dogs and all of the things in between, right? We really just want to have a good time with it. But really what we're trying to do with all of this is get to the truth. We want to the best of our ability, to take a lot of the confusion out of the science, out of the food, out of health and wellness, out of what we do for our dogs and what we don't do for our dogs, and bring it to where it's as simple as possible, but get you what is true today. What we know, science changes, right? Changes all the time as we learn, as we research. That's the beautiful thing about science. But there's so much misinformation and so much confusion out there in this world of internet and social media that it can be really frustrating and scary and annoying. So that's what this show's about, which is why I'm really excited today to have a new friend of mine. This is Sean Zyer. He is with a company called, or it's your company, sorry, it's called Earth Buddy. And Earth Buddy is a CBD company for both humans and animals. Hi, Sean.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And I'm really excited to really dig in. There are lots of questions and talk about misunderstandings about, CBD, what's good, what's not good, what it does, what it doesn't do. And so I'm excited to pick your brain. I know some, but I don't know a lot. And so this is going to be good stuff. But as always, the first thing that we do is we start our morning with gratitude. So as I was thinking about what I'm grateful for, there are really just a ton of things, but there are a couple of things that come to mind for me today. The first one is gratitude. Super grateful for an amazing husband who keeps me grounded and sane in a time of insanity. What's our day? We're 41 or 43 days in isolation, maybe 48. I don't know. I watch the news. Laura Ingraham keeps up. I don't keep up well. I think I don't really want to keep up, but I'm certainly done with it, to tell you the truth. But we have had the opportunity to work in the garden, and we're building a fence that we've been trying to build for however many years we've been trying to build it. So all of these good things. And I'll also tell you, and forgive me for a second, Sean, because this is something that I really want to talk about for a minute, which has nothing to do with CBD. But I decided for myself it was time for me to detox. I know in this world that we're living in right now, so many of us, I don't know about you, Sean, but so many of us are overindulging in food, we're overindulging in wine or alcohol or whatever your thing is, because things are a mess. Right? And so I was doing the same thing. How about you, Sean? Were you doing the same thing?
Yeah, I think alcohol is probably one of those things that's real easy to fall into because there's a lot of free time, and it's like, why not? And food, for that matter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing both.
I've abstained the whole time, and I've cracked a few times. I love my craft beers, so
yeah.
We all have those indulgences, like you said, but I think being conscious of, the free time that we have and kind of making sure that it's that easy to do, then that's all the more reason to kind of back off a little bit.
Yeah, good for you. I love that. Something that I keep saying, whether it's on the show or other places, it's, this really is, as frustrating as it is, it's a time of innovation and ingenuity and changing where it is. Instead of just getting stuck, you got to just keep moving and doing something else. So, for me personally, although there has been more alcohol involved in my life, it's taken me out of my comfort zone. I'm doing, more live things. I'm co-creating a really cool course. So it's these things, but what it also, now I'm at a place where I feel it, and I'm not feeling as sharp as I want to feel and as good as I want to feel, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. So as of Monday, I started detoxing, and I want to hit on detoxing a little bit because there's, again, with the confusion that we have out there, hey, Conrad and Tanya and Jeff, what's going on? With all the confusion out there with everything, there's a lot of confusion about detox. Can we do a juice fast and detox? Can we do a water fast and detox? The answer is absolutely not. Detox is not a simple thing. You can't just juice. If you're doing a juice fast for a couple of days, probably what's going to happen is you're going to increase your blood sugar, right? That's not what we want either. So, I'm not saying that these are bad things, but we got to really understand the detoxification pathways and the nutrients that are necessary in order for the body to function properly, and for phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detoxification to function properly, and then of course phase 3, which is elimination. So all of these things require different nutrients, and these different nutrients move fat-soluble toxins from phase 1 into phase 2, where they become water-soluble, within phase 3, where they're then eliminated. So you have to have the right nutrients that are going to pull out and bind and help these pathways work properly. So the reason I say this is because we need to understand that I'm not saying fasting is a bad idea. I think fasting is a great idea, but it's not a detox. And you have to know you have to know your disease, your health status, for lack of a better word. Know your health status, know where you are. If you don't know, find somebody who does. Find somebody who can help you understand what it is that you need and what your body needs to properly detoxify. And I would tell you, don't put it off. Now's the time to do it. That's what I decided to do. I'm already feeling so much better. Yeah, all good stuff. So, long-winded, but Sean, tell us what you're grateful for today.
I am grateful, number one, for my health. I think that's one thing that came out of this whole quarantine and pandemic is, more than ever, I think, my hope in a perfect world is that we come out of this with a more conscious and more of a focus towards our health and our immune system and how we can help that. And I think there's some really basic ways we can do that. But I'm super thankful that I was doing a lot of these things prior. A lot of what we do at our company is stuff that we truly believe in and do ourselves. So that's one thing I'm thankful for. I'm also thankful for just really simple things that have come out of this. I have 2 little daughters, Reagan and Finley, and I've been able to spend a ton of time with them. And, obviously homeschooling is not easy. I'm grateful for teachers, especially elementary school teachers. I can't tell you how hard their job is until the past month, So I think, the very little small things that we take for granted, especially as parents, I'm so thankful for those. And then, something as simple as my health. I think those are the 2 big things.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. What we are really discovering is that this as well as this virus, as well as many things in life, many diseases in life, are lifestyle diseases. And so there's a I guess an analogy that I've been using, and it's also spurred this course that I'm creating, which is which is an immune boosting. It's a very holistic immune boosting course. And it's sort of a little bit of a shameless plug, but I think it's important for us to understand that when we get in our car, we put the seatbelt on in case we have an accident, right? And so we can't put the seatbelts on when we're in an accident. We can't and expect it to protect us. We can't put a seatbelt on after the accident and expect it to protect us. So this is our immune system. We have to care for it and love it and give it the fuel and what it needs in order for it to protect us when things like this come about. And that's what health and wellness is. It's a lifestyle. It's not I got to start taking a bunch of vitamin C or a bunch of medicinal mushrooms or whatever because we have a virus. I mean, this is what has created a little bit of anxiety, insanity, and what's happening with all of this. And there's a lot of fear, and I think it's a lot of fear. I think there's a lot more fear than there should be, quite honestly. So, but I don't want to get too deep into that. I do believe, though, that it's important for us to know how to care for ourselves, how to care for our families, and do it in a holistic manner on a regular basis, because in that and of itself is going to then care for our communities, and it's just going to spread, right? And so I agree with you, and I love your thought on that. You know, taking care of ourselves has really got to be the number one thing, because when we take care of ourselves, we're taking care of everybody around us. So thank you for that.
That's why they tell us to put the mask on first on the airplane, right?
Right. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Let's dig into the juicy stuff. I'm so excited about this. So I'll tell you for a little bit of history. I met Matt a week ago. I met Sean through my friend Matt a week ago. And when Matt introduced me to Sean, or he said, you know, we do a Facebook Live, Real Raw Health for Dogs. He said, I want to have my friend Sean on, and it's all about CBD. And my comment was, okay, if it's a quality product, and you know it's a quality product, because I don't want to just have anybody on. And I should have known that Matt would not have anybody other than the very best on. And it's really true. And so with that, I was like, okay, radio shows next week, we're having Sean on, because we want to talk about this, because I just got giddy with excitement and talking about what he's doing. But not only what he's doing, it's not about the CBD, but it's how he's doing it, who he's doing it for, what he's seeing in his company, in his business. And I'm going to shut up now so I can let you talk. And I want you to just start out with who you are, why you do what you do, how you got the company started. You know, just give us some history before we start digging into the science.
Yeah, I'll give you a short version of it, but basically I came out to Colorado to play at the University of Northern Colorado. I played baseball there and immediately fell in love with Colorado, as many people do. And I'm from the Midwest originally, in Wisconsin. And my first job out of college was with a science-based pet food company. And I've been in the pet industry ever since I got out of college, so going on almost 15 years. So I've had the privilege of seeing basically every phase of the pet industry, from distribution to pet food manufacturing, and basically every marketing under the sun. And so throughout that process, a lot of what I saw as the cannabis industry started coming into the pet industry was there was no difference in a lot of the products. There was a lot of price gouging. There was a lot of misinformation, as you spoke about earlier. And so that was one kind of step in the direction of us starting Earth Buddy. The major step, and really what pushed us into starting Earth Buddy, was I adopted a dog named Kiva, who was about 13 years old when we got her, and was having cluster seizures. And so she was non-responsive to traditional medication. A lot of the seizure meds are pretty harsh on a dog's body, and at this time she only had 30 pounds. She should have been more like 50. So putting pills in her body that are pharmaceuticals, and then asking her organs to figure those out while she wasn't eating and having 20 plus seizures a day was a really tough ask. And so we started looking at alternatives, feeding her whole food nutrition, meaning raw, whole foods, and supplementing things like cannabis and medicinal mushrooms, and kind of keto-ish. You asked me about that on the other call. It was keto-ish. We were adding lots of like healthy fats like coconut oil and olive oil and things like that, but mostly just about feeding her real food. And when we started going down the road of helping her, we immediately saw the difference, not only from the diet, but from the cannabis side, specifically CBD. We were able to reduce those seizures significantly and keep her around another 1.5 years. So for a 13-year-old dog that was having that many seizures and that diminished in terms of weight and just strength, to keep her around another 1.5 years and thrive at some points was pretty phenomenal. Throughout that process, we also realized that there wasn't much in the way of good information and good sourcing at the time, because Colorado catching up to you.
Okay, so yeah. I think you said there's not a lot of good information, and then you said because Colorado. So try again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Thanks.
Okay. So in terms of sourcing, there wasn't a lot of good information, and we didn't feel comfortable with a lot of it. So we were fortunate to have some friends and some really solid relationships on the cannabis side. So our farm and facility that we now share is ran by two scientists who study plant genetics, biochemistry, and we're able to use real innovation and science behind what we do and explain everything down to the very seed. We see a lot of marketing terms from like seed to oil or things like that, but we truly do breed our own seeds, harvest our own plants, and do a lot of our own extraction in-house, because we want that chain of custody and everything about that plant to be explained when it gets to our finished products, whether it's people or pets. And one of the things that really drives me in what we do is we are so detached from our food sources.
Yeah.
Go to the grocery store right now and tell me where half of that stuff is from. You could say country of origin, but we're so detached from where everything we put in our mouth is. And when we're talking about our dogs and our cats, we want to know a little bit more because we're making that decision for them. So that really drives us in what we do, and really being able to explore or explain every single part of our sourcing conversation. So then we know the quality, even if it's a vendor that we source another product like our colostrum or our mushrooms from.
So this is the cool stuff too, is everything that they have. I was on the website looking around, everything is whole food. And so when we're talking about, immune boosting right now, we want to boost our own immune systems, but we also want to boost our dogs, our pets. Some of us are cat people, some of us are dog people. I'm a dog people. But we want, the medicinal mushrooms are amazing. I mean, I give my dogs medicinal mushrooms, and to have a CBD product with whole food medicinal mushrooms in it is awesome. Colostrum. Right now, I give colostrum to myself and to my husband and to my dogs on a daily basis to boost their immune system. These are amazing things, and this is something that, again, if you watched last week, I don't mean to be repetitive, but this is so cool because colostrum, people see it as dairy, and it's not. It is completely molecularly different than milk. And so the body, what it's doing is colostrum is immunoglobulin, so it's helping to boost the immune system. And so this is a really, really cool product to have CBD with colostrum. I mean, this is why I get giddy about these things, because it's just is so smart. So real quick, I need to talk about one of our sponsors, and then we're going to start moving into some of the sciencey fun stuff. But one of our sponsors is a company called Rightful. They're a great company too because of, their ingredients are amazing. They're all plant-based. They're based in a coconut milk liquid, so it's a liquid, and there's a morning and an evening. And it's a great product. It's a turmeric-based product. So the intent for it initially was pain relief. And they're actually now selling it into pain management clinics, which is awesome because what we typically see in pain management are drugs or injections and things like that. But when there's a natural product that these pain management clinics are accepting and utilizing for their patients, I mean, that's a really big step, right? It's a really big step in the right direction. So what they're also finding though, when the intent was for pain management, it's got lots of different herbs in it that are good for adrenal support, for calm, for focus, for sleep. And this is why I love it. I'm grateful that I don't have a lot of pain. But I love it because what I find is I'm more focused. I sleep well. I feel good. And it's a great product. And I just ran out, so it's time for me to get some more. But it's a good company. Look them up. You can go to rightful.com, put in the code TLN, as in Taste Life Nutrition, TLN20, and you can order it on there. That'll give you a discount. It's good stuff. I would give it a try. Absolutely. All right. So, Sean, I want to talk a little bit about, I think I want to start with the endocannabinoid system. Is it okay to start there and just kind of give an idea of what it is about cannabis that it is showing to be so beneficial for us and for our animals?
Well, we have to start there.
Well, good, perfect.
Yeah, we have to start there, and I was going to make sure we did start there. The endocannabinoid system, or the endogenous cannabinoid system, is a system that comprises of receptors in our body, and we naturally produce cannabinoids. So these cannabinoids act as a lock and key on many different pathways in our body. Inflammation pathways, mood pathways, many other systems, our cognitive function, our digestive health. We're producing these naturally. And so what happens a lot of times, and especially with pets, our theory in working with so many different veterinarians and so many different, surveys and things that we've seen about just cannabis in general, is that this system can become deficient at times. And so this system's focus is to create balance in our bodies. And if we're not able to do that naturally, introducing something like a cannabis product with CBD or even THC is a really good way to kind of bring the body back to balance. Engage and activate that endocannabinoid system so it functions a little bit more properly. Now, you're never going to be on a perfect balanced line. The best way to explain it, and I can't talk with my hands because I don't want to mess up my internet, but it's kind of like riding a wave, and you're not always on that perfect straight line of balance, but you're trying to stay closer to that middle line, as opposed to having these huge peaks and valleys with your cannabinoid system. I think as we age, we all experience more stress. We have harder times digesting food. We get, brain fog. We eat crappy, or we drink too much, and all these different things that can kind of affect that system. And if we can engage and activate that system from a plant, that is always going to be safer. I think safety is a very underrated thing to talk about with cannabis. And so taking a plant extract, a botanical extract, is always a really safe way to kind of engage that system. And it just so happens Mother Nature, being so smart in her infinite wisdom, created a plant with hundreds of these molecules that are mirroring what our bodies naturally produce. So that's really cool. Every green plant produces cannabinoids, but specifically cannabis, in this case, produces a ton of them. In our case, specifically with Earth Buddy and Boulder Hemp, we produce high CBD hemp, which is predominantly CBD and less than 0.3% THC. And what we want to do is we want to have a ton of these other smaller cannabinoids come along for the ride. We want to engage that system. We kind of want to flood that system with all these different plant molecules, because that's the idea behind a botanical extract. But back to the endocannabinoid system, it's super important. It acts on our immune system and it acts on our brain health. And just taking those two systems into account, we can really help our overall well-being.
Cool. And so when you're talking about all of the different cannabinoids, is this what you would say is like a full spectrum CBD?
Full spectrum is more of a marketing term.
Okay.
We use it to kind of address it because that's what a lot of people are starting to recognize, especially here in Colorado, that are very cannabis, knowledgeable. But I think the better way to explain it is we use the whole plant. And
perfect, yeah.
To the fact that it's a botanical, and the idea behind a botanical is it's not just an isolated single molecule product. It's got more than just one thing. So a lot of companies promote that they are a CBD product, and we absolutely call that out, but we really want to speak to the fact that we're trying to preserve all these other plant compounds, because the idea behind botanical, extracts, with it, regardless of what it is, cannabis or not, is to preserve many things from the plant. And we talked about this on the last call. There's no isolate vitamins in the wild, so you don't eat an orange and say, oh, I feel the vitamin C absorbing. It's not really how that works. You probably absorb more from that orange than you would just from a synthetic pill or a vitamin, though. And that's the interesting thing about it. And that's kind of our philosophy behind our products is minimally process the plant. The plant did all the work and has all the value. We need to get out of the way and kind of keep that intact as much as possible without adulterating it.
Yeah, it's true. I think that what we find a molecule, a vitamin, a mineral, whatever, and in science, and we're like, okay, this is the one thing, so we have to take it out, and we believe that that's going to be the thing that is going to be the savior or the amazing component, whatever it is. But then it's like the human is trying to be God, and there are lots of things about these plants and about vegetables and fruits and things that we take in. There's still a lot of stuff we don't know. We don't know everything that's in them. We like to think we know everything, but we don't.
Well, I like to put it this way. So we've been using pharmaceutical compounds for 80 years now, Western medicine. How did we get this far without it?
Yeah.
How did we make it this far? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Western medicine. I think there's a good balance of both that should be applied, especially to sick and severe issues with people and pets. But I think, we got pretty far along the road without using pharmaceuticals in our society and in our world. So I think, at least trying to have a good mix of both is always a better option than just relying on these synthetic or pharmaceutical grade type of products.
Yeah.
And I think more natural, your body's always going to respond better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it goes back to food is medicine, right? I think you were saying this a little bit earlier, we're so disconnected from our food, but we're disconnected from our bodies too, right? So we have this thought or this view that, symptoms are genetic, or symptoms are age, or symptoms are, bad luck, or whatever it is, when really it's us. We have the control over how our body's reacting by what we put in it and what we put on it. And what we put in our environment around it. So, obviously the smell and things getting into our skin, all of these things we have control over. But back when these symptoms arised, however many years ago, before the turn of the century, and then of course way before that, people would listen to their body. They would know that something was up, and they would go out and fix it with something in the field or whatever it is that they did. I don't even know. But that's what herbs are for. Herbs are incredibly strong. And I think so strong that there are a lot of people who don't understand how strong they are and think, well, because they're natural, they won't cause harm. Anything can also cause harm, but there's a healthy balance. We have to understand what our body's telling us, what it is that we need to go find, how to understand our body. And I also will say that there's a lot to that. I do it because I love it. But what I don't love is accounting. So because I don't love it, I give it to somebody who does love it, right? So when it comes to understanding these things that we might not have an understanding of, that's why we go to the professionals. This is why I go to you. I know some about CBD, THC. I've used it on family members and my dogs. But what I know is I used what I thought was the best because I wasn't really sure. I'm like, how do I find out who's the best, what the best product is? How do I know about their farm? How do I know about their standards? That's not easy information to figure out, which is, again, why having you on the show was so exciting for me and important for me, because, as I said in the beginning, I want people to know the truth, who's the best, what the real deal is, and why. And then you don't have to question it. You don't have to go, oh, I don't know what to do. Now you know what to do, right? If you want to dive into the CBD world. Sorry, I kind of went off there. It's just super cool stuff.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to what we were talking about with full spectrum. That's speaking to what science and all the research has shown, that is called the ensemble or entourage effect, meaning the whole plant is greater than the sum of its individual parts.
Right.
And that's been proven time and time again. The idea behind that is we want minimal effective dose, and as we increase the dose of our products, we want it to have more benefits. Now, here's the tricky part with cannabis. It's extremely individualized. It's not personalized because I work in pets and people, but it's individualized, meaning depending on your lifestyle, your diet, your pet's lifestyle, their diet, you know, their history, you know, there could be some traumatic stress involved. Everybody's dose is going to vary, and you have to play with that. And it's not like a pharmaceutical where it's like, I take this at this time every day. Your dose might go up and down throughout your treatment. So we really want to stress to people, when you're using a whole plant or full spectrum product like ours, that take it at times where you can really be conscious of how you feel, and is it helping or not. You can always go up or down, but we always say, especially with pets, start small, go slow, and then you can kind of play around with that dose. But the idea is that it's a full spectrum or whole plant product, and that we can have that minimal effective dose. So a couple things with that are really important. You know, to be totally honest, it's cheaper if you don't have to use as much. So a lot of CBD products are not cheap. Even the cheapest ones are not that cheap. So we want to make sure you can use as little as possible, and then ultimately it's safer on the body. What they found with these very refined or isolated CBD products is that a lot of them are extremely high milligrams, extremely high dosed. And what happens in our society in general with pets and people is we think more is more, and that's going to work better. So we see these high milligram amounts for really cheap prices, and then they buy it and they keep using more and more, and it stops working. Because cannabis isn't just this thing that if I do double the dose, it's going to work even better. And as a matter of fact, we have, dog scenarios and cat scenarios where they use as little as 1 to 2 milligrams and get an amazing response. That's almost like nothing. So we have all these wide varying kind of responses to dose, or we can increase that dose and get a more profound result. With the isolates, though, we haven't seen that quite as much, and the research would show otherwise, that there are some negative side effects as you increase dosage.
So that was kind of a question, because that's one of the things that I had heard or read it somewhere, but I again hadn't dug into the science behind it. But was that often what can happen, and this was specifically in humans, that you're taking it for anxiety, and then you start to take it, and then you hit a point to where it actually starts to increase your anxiety. So what's probably happening is they're taking the isolates. And so since it's not a full plant product, it's essentially throwing things out of balance. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, on the flip side of that, they could be using too much THC. So if they're here in Colorado or a recreational state and they're using too high amounts of THC, that can actually cause more anxiety. And I've had friends, I've had people that have told me that they've actually had panic attacks from some of the cannabis that they've gotten at dispensaries. Now, that's what drove a lot of the legalization here in Colorado, is the THC plant, which is considered marijuana. But basically, all of those products are basically void of CBD. And what we do know, again, is back to the Entourage Effect, is having more of these plant compounds, CBD, THC, and some of the minor cannabinoids and other essence of the plant, the experience is more enjoyable, and they don't have to use as much, and they can play with their dosage a lot more freely, as opposed to, I built this tolerance up to this high amount of CBD or THC and it doesn't work, or it created XYZ side effect. That's not the point of a natural plant extract. Yeah. Any kind of plant-based medicine that we're talking about, we want to use minimal effective dose. And I see so many people, when they come to this category, whether it's people or pets, want to use more to get more of a benefit, and that's not always the case. Sometimes you got to stay the course with a really low dose and then gradually build it up, or incorporate other herbs or natural ingredients.
Okay. So, knowing that I'm asking you a question that is not an easy question because it is individualized, if somebody, human or animal, which again is going to be different, how how slowly or how quickly, either way, do you think that you kind of build to understand where you're seeing benefit? Is there a way to kind of track that?
I think there's a couple steps that I would like to take, and I'll use pets because it's really, there's no placebo effect with pets. Mm-hmm. People can take something and go, oh yeah, I feel better, but they could have just, they exercised that morning, they ate a good breakfast too, so that could add some factors in there. With dogs and cats, there's no placebo, so I like to use them. What we can do with them is we obviously have to use an oral preparation for pets. We're not going to blow smoke in their face. We're not going to expect them to smoke it, obviously. So with an oral preparation, we can use something palatable like a treat, or we can use an oil which is paired with a carrier oil like MCT oil that's really healthy for your body, or a powder that has like our colostrum or something. So we pair it with that, and we make it palatable, we make the experience enjoyable. We're not stressed as a pet parent administering that, and we use a really small starting dose. We use a really basic way to break it down is we use 1 milligram per 10 pounds for pets. Okay. That's just a basic way to say this is about as low of a dose that we feel you can see at least a little bit of stress relief without seeing this really, profound, they knock out or they fall asleep for, 8 hours. We don't want to see that with our product. We want to see like a very calm focus as opposed to drowsy, my dog's like drooling or something like that. So we use that dosage as our starting point, and what we say is give us 3 to 5 days with that dosage. And I would apply this to people too. Mm-hmm. If you're cannabis naive, meaning you've never really learned or known or used about THC or CBD, I would start with that kind of base dosage for at least a couple days, even if you feel nothing. And then you can always increase on an as-needed basis. I'd rather you start there than use double whatever the bottle or the bag says and get a really negative experience, and then you associate that with every product or every brand that you come across. And it doesn't give the product the right expectation. Right. Again, I just always go back to, it's a botanical extract, and we have to be conscious of the fact that it's going to be different for everybody. But I think starting small, about 1 milligram every 10 pounds, for people that usually ends up being like a full milliliter in a tincture. And that's usually 1 to 2 times a day is what I've typically seen on human products, which ends up being about 15 to 30 milligrams per day to start. Okay. Some people, though, have even reported back as little as 5 milligrams of CBD has helped them in some way, shape, or form. Interesting. So it just depends on the people. The other thing we can't take into account is the chemistry of that person, how their endocannabinoid system is functioning. Yeah. I would always rely on someone like yourself or someone who's very knowledgeable in nutrition to kind of start there. What we do see, especially with cats and dogs, because again, there's no placebo there, when they feed a whole food or higher quality diet, our products have phenomenal results. When they're on a lower quality kibble or very processed or refined product, they don't respond as well, and they usually have to use more of the product.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I want to back up a little bit, in talking about the quality. So your quality, but the reasoning behind it, in trying to get my thoughts together, because the thing that I talk about a lot, I as a nutritionist, my thing is food, right? But really it's lifestyle. It's everything that creates health and wellness for us and for our dogs. And so it's what we put on our skin, it's what we put in our skin, it's what we put in our environment. And often we're trusting the internet, we're trusting marketing, we're trusting these things to help us in purchasing, in making a purchase, right? So take Amazon, which I love Amazon. I order off Amazon way too much. I will not order supplements off of Amazon. That includes CBD, that includes essential oils, that includes most of my skincare products, because We don't know what it is. The data shows that if you buy something off eBay, and literally there's data on this, if you buy something off of eBay or off of Amazon or any of those others, it may not be what it states that it is. It may be expired. It may be something totally different. It's even been sawdust. And so, and I've said this before, you think sawdust, oh, sawdust is not so bad, it's wood. I wouldn't want it because it's not going to do anything. But if we think about what we put on our wood to allow it to hold up a house or a deck, the chemicals and the toxins that are in sawdust, if it's not just a tree, this is scary. It's really scary. And so this can create really negative effects. And so I say all of this to, for one, to talk about the understanding that you are so careful about what you do and how you do it and why you do it and the science behind it. But then to make sure that we're all understanding that it's what goes on our skin, in our body, in our environment that is so critical. But we have to have control of this. This stuff is not regulated, which is a good thing. We don't want it regulated. I will not trust the government to tell me how much vitamin C that I should take, because I can guarantee you it's not right. Go to the RDA. Recommended daily allowance of supplements is BS. It's a very generalized, and it is for kind of it's for the lower quality of life. It's not for thriving. This is how much you need just to kind of get by, right? It's not. So we don't want regulation of supplements. We don't want regulation of CBDs and things like this. But it puts the responsibility on us, which is where it should be. But we have to take the responsibility to learn it ourselves or find the people who know, right? Which is, again, why I try to bring on the people who know and the people who are going to be the best at what they do. But be very, very careful about what you buy, whatever kind of product it is. If it's supplements, if it's a cannabis product, because it can be really good or it can be really bad. And there's a lot of trash out there, whether it's supplements, whether it's CBD. And think about, if it's what you're putting on your skin, there are potentially, all kinds of junk that they put in lotions and salves and things that you're putting on your joints for pain. I mean, it may or may not have CBD in it, but it may also have a lot of toxic junk in it too. So we want to stay away from that. We want to go to the people and the companies who are, especially if they're small and they're local and they're good, get to know your local companies. In a time we're in right now, this is what we need. We need to go to our people, support our local businesses that are really out there working their tails off to do the right thing.
Yeah, so I would like to address kind of or just add to what you're talking about. So from the cannabis side, I always bring up kind of a full world scope, and it's grown all over the world, and mostly for the hemp variety, which is more for an industrial form, which is going to be producing textiles, clothing, rope. There's even biofuel that we can derive from this, and a lot of countries grow it for the seed because there's a ton of nutritional value in the seed and the oil from the hemp plant. What we grow here in Colorado and recreationally legal states on the marijuana side is really for the drug variety or medicinal value. So when you hear industrial hemp, I think of the tall, skinny, basically what they're growing in China to clean their soil and reduce the heavy metals in their soil. And then when I think of Colorado, I think of the Colorado style hemp that looks like marijuana but is producing high CBD. So I just want to address kind of some differences in the different plant varieties, and the chemical makeups of those plants is really important to note. We grow high potency CBD hemp, and some things to take into account. Most marijuana grows are indoor, and when you put an organic plant indoors, there has to be interventions. And those interventions could come in the way of sprays, essential oils, things like neem oil. And then we're taking that plant and we're harvesting it and we're smoking it, or we're putting it in a extraction machine and concentrating it. and then we're putting that in our mouth and our skin. That had a big red flag for me when we were starting this company. I was like, how do we avoid a lot of that? Sprays, concentrating those, whether they're essential oils or not, those can be pretty bad for a pet or people as well. And how do we do this in a scalable way? So when we partnered with our farm in Longmont, one of the things that they really stress is that we are a scalable and low intervention crop. So meaning we only grow on 4 acres. Nothing on this farm has ever been grown that wasn't organic. So it's always been an organic soil. So the soil is very well developed, which is a big part of any kind of agriculture, or in our case, horticulture. And, you know, some basic things that we do is anybody can grow this plant. It's a pretty resilient plant, especially in a dry, arid climate like Colorado. We make sure that we grow to scale and that we can still hand harvest and dry indoors, because our chemist says it best. He says, the real work doesn't start until you pull the plants out of the ground. So you can grow this beautiful plant, but if you let it dry out in the field and collect mold and fungus, well, now you're going to have to use a chemical extraction and spray fungicides all over that. And then you're just going to heavily refine that product just to get the CBD out of it. So there's all these different steps in the growing phase and the seeding phase that we want to be able to explain and say, hey, we are trying to keep this as natural as possible, to the point where, because we grow on such a small farm and we don't have all these interventions, we don't spray our plants with anything. That's really important. A lot of the more crop you grow and the larger your farm gets, the less you can dry that plant indoors and prevent mold or mildew. The more sprays you might have to incorporate while the plant is in the ground. And ultimately, you're going to have to refine that finished product a lot more with things like ethanol, butane, methanol. You know, there's a bunch of different chemical solvents that have to be incorporated in. The less we can do that, the more true to the plant the product will be in the finished product. So every step of that phase is to preserve what that plant produced naturally. And the more compounds that that plant produces, it's speaking to the fact that the health of that plant, the immune system of that plant, was able to ward off pests, ward off insects, which ultimately force, you know, bigger farms to incorporate these interventions like sprays and things. So the fact that we don't have to do that is amazing. We keep our crop the same size every year. We amend our soil, and we're really fighting to use a little bit above and beyond those USDA organic standards.
Awesome. Good for you. It's amazing to me how much plants and humans have in common. Because it, you know, if you give it what it needs, you put it in the right environment, you give it the nutrients in the soil, it has the ability to fight off bugs and weeds and disease, and all of these things. And so it's really amazing. And then for human consumption, you know, feeding a healthy plant is only going to create more health for a human. And so that's awesome. Good for you. There was something that you had last time we talked, and this is going to be a little bit of the geek part of me, and for anybody on here who might be a little bit of a geek. But there's a product that you have. So I'm a big fan of liposomals. So what liposomal means is that the molecules are super tiny, and they're in a delivery system that allows for the absorption through the mucosas, so through the mouth and through the cells, as opposed to going and hitting the gut and being broken down in the gut. And so you had told me that you actually have, because I had thought about this, and you said you have liposomals for dogs. And I was like, this is the coolest thing, but if they're not holding it in their mouth, how does that work? And so I just want you to talk about what you have found in using these liposomals in your business.
Yeah, I don't call our product a liposomal.
Okay.
I call it more of a water compatible or water soluble.
Okay.
For the simple fact that we use an emulsification process that allows us to, instead of putting it with coconut oil or olive oil that you see in traditional like tinctures or little bottles, those are mostly in fat. We wanted to put it in water, distilled water in this case, to help it absorb better. And what we've seen unequivocally both in people and pets is that it works extremely fast because it does absorb within the mucous membranes really quickly because of that emulsification process. Basically what we're trying to do, and I know you use the term liposomal, and I love that for certain vitamins, but what I really want to preface is cannabis doesn't need to be in a liposome. It doesn't need to be encased in a fat to absorb better. What we need to do is make the molecule smaller if we want it to work faster. And that's kind of the goal of this product, is we want to peak the blood level quicker. So by putting it in a distilled water, having an easier device to, squirt in our mouths or squirt in our pet's mouth, one, mucosally, we're going to absorb it a little bit quicker if we can let it sit in our mouth. But also with our pets, they're not going to let it sit very well, but they might get some of that mucosal absorption. But ultimately, because it's in water and because we made the molecule smaller, it's going to peak their blood level with the CBD a little bit quicker. And that is the focus of that product. It's not saying, it's better on an empty stomach versus food. We actually like all of our products, especially in pets, to be with food because most cat and dog food is high in fat. And so we do know through research, cannabis loves to be paired with healthy fats. So if they're eating it with their dog or cat food, they're going to absorb it really well, but it's still going to peak their blood level faster. What we've seen on average is, within 10 minutes, people and pets are usually feeling something. Again, that's individualized, it's anecdotal, but what we do know is we notice it really quickly with our cats and dogs. And it's just it's a nicer product from like a more concentrated and faster acting. That was the goal of that product. But liposomal, like vitamin D, is great for that. But cannabis, we really don't need to have a liposomal product necessarily. It's more of just emulsifying, making the molecule this big to this big.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. One of the things that I wanted to be sure that I hit on, and would love any additional input that you have on it. Oh, I forgot. I have another sponsor. I get all wrapped up in what we're talking about. So just real quick, a company that is a great company. It's a great supplement company, Zymogen. They are amazing. They have a ton of data behind their products. They have great lines of products. So whether it's endocrine, immune, brain health, sports, it's kind of across the board. I won't get into any particular products right now, but you can go onto my website, tastelifenutrition.com, and there's a button. It's a Zymogen button. Actually, I think it says Whole Scripts. So same thing, Zymogen and Whole Scripts. Click on that and look through there. If there are things that you like, right now, boosting the immune system is pretty important stuff. There's colostrum. There are, medicinal mushrooms, things like that. So check it out. Put in the code Radio5 for a discount and check them out. It's a really, really good company. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the detoxification process or pathway of CBD, because what's something that we need to be really clear about. If you want to try CBD, if you haven't already, if you've been on the fence and you're taking pharmaceuticals, it can affect the pharmaceuticals. So you might have heard there's statins, there are a number of them, the blood thinners, blood pressure drugs, heart rhythm drugs, erectile dysfunction, prostate drugs, pain meds, and antibiotics. A lot of these drugs go through a pathway. It's called cytochrome P450, and it's a detoxification pathway in the liver. Lots of drugs go through that. CBD also goes through that. Grapefruit goes through that, and some of grapefruit's, little other family members, certain kinds of oranges, things like that. But what can happen is if you are taking, with a grapefruit or with CBD, it can actually slow or speed up the process of the elimination of these drugs. So it can either increase the blood level of the drug from what you're supposed to be taking, or it can decrease it. So obviously it's going to have an effect on how the drug is affecting you. So I want to be very, very clear that, again, just because it's a natural product, just like grapefruit is, that there can potentially be, there are things that we need to be aware of. And that's certainly one of them. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm going to give two plugs to two sites that have no financial affiliation with either of us, but I think are the most medically sound and scientifically based that I can push people to, because this has nothing to do with us. I think this is really important you brought this up, and sometimes we get lost in kind of, plants are beautiful. VeterinaryCannabis.org is the #1 source I go to when customers come to us and ask us, hey, I'm on phenobarbital to treat seizures, can I give your product? Or hey, I'm on XYZ NSAID, can I use your product? So VeterinaryCannabis.org is really important from the pet side. They have vet techs, veterinarians that are very experienced with cannabis products. They know how to evaluate products and how they're going to interact with drugs. I will never give drug advice as a company to a pet parent that comes to me and goes, hey, I'm on XYZ drug. I always send them there because, one, they're product neutral, and they're going to give sound information on drug cannabis interactions. There are some, what we do know, relatively safe from the experience, relatively safe to do in conjunction, but to your point, you can increase or decrease the effects of that pharmaceutical. And as a bottom line, what I would tell people is, why send two things, one natural, one pharmaceutical, to the same place in terms of organs in your liver, and say, hey, both of you work at the same time? It's not fair. It's not fair to the drug. It's not fair to the product. So go to veterinariancannabis.org for pets. And for people, I would highly suggest going to Project CBD. They have a network of doctors, cannabis doctors, and they have such good information in terms of just cannabis in general, that it's always good to go to a neutral party when considering cannabis and you're taking some type of pharmaceutical, because then you're not getting sold by a brand. I know many brands have recently been flagged by the FDA for, one, making medical claims, and two, saying, hey, go ahead and take our product with your NSAID or your seizure drug. That's not fair to the drug or the product, and there's a lot of compromise in that with your animal and yourself. So those are two resources I would highly recommend when you're talking about drug interactions.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. We're about at time. Tell me, tell everybody where you can be found, how you can be found, all of the fun stuff.
Yes, our website, you can check out all of our detailed product and more information at earthbuddypet.com. And all of our socials are earthbuddypet, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. But thank you for the time today. I really appreciate it. And I love sitting on here and talking with a nutritionist about, what's good for us.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And so what about your human side? It's a different not a different company, but a different name, right?
The side is Boulder Hemp.
Okay.
And they make a lot of the mirroring products that we make. So, you'll see their medicinal mushroom blend and CBD. It's all the same quality, all the same innovation. We make it in the same facility. Our side is the pet side, and their side is the human side. So sharing that facility, sharing that science and that innovation, it's amazing. We are a fully transparent company, so if anybody has any questions, reach out to me or our website. We're more than happy to answer any questions you have. There's a lot to our products. They're not just, here's another CBD tincture. There's more to it than that, and we always want to be able to be open and available to answer those questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful that you came on, and I just love what you do. So thanks a ton. Okay, so we are finishing up. I am Nikki Burnett. My company is Taste Life Nutrition. This, of course, is Taste Life Radio. We're streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, one of the top live streaming companies in the country and growing. So this is a great station. So pay attention to things that they're bringing to you. A lot of new things coming up. So I'm excited about what they're doing, we are doing here at the station. You can go to my website, tastelifenutrition.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the places. It's hard work keeping up, but I try. Let us know if you have questions, any of you on, hey Cassie and John. Ashley, it's been a long time. Ashley is also in hemp. Her boyfriend, husband's in hemp. So let us know if you have questions. Go to the websites, give us a call, do whatever. We hope you all have a wonderful, amazing day. Get out in the sun, have some fun, and have a good weekend. We'll see you later on. Bye.
Thank you. We'll see ya.
All right.
Thank you.